let's make some internet magic here. Welcome back, everybody, to the Verdigris table. I am Ryan Doyle, your host, I guess, and I am very excited today to be joined by the lovely Stephanie of Stephanie Plays Games.
I'm Stephanie, I guess.
Are you not?
Oh no, I was just saying
Uh-oh.
the host, I guess. I'm like, oh no,
okay.
am I the host now?
I was like, oh no, I did my I got her name wrong.
I am taking your channel. I am the host now. Welcome everybody.
This is your show now. When you're not hosting this show, where can people find you?
I am in fact at Stephanie Plays Games. That is probably the only spot I'm active on right now. I do have Twitter and a YouTube, or not a YouTube, an Instagram that are linked in my YouTube. Good luck remembering the handle name me. Really great at self-promotion. But yeah, main spot is in fact Stephanie Plays Games on YouTube.
Cool. And people, no one types anything anymore. Links down where the links go. Just click the buttons. Go find Stephanie. And what would they find if they do click those buttons? What do you bring to the table?
Whew. I just love to talk about I package it as D&D ideas. I'm a pretty system agnostic person. I like to grab little bits and tinker with things. So there's a little bit of like mechanic stealing and bringing it into your D&D game, plot hooks and everything. So something for everybody. I really like to talk about unpopular player options and why you should play them and general story ideas for them.
Oh, interesting. So what, like, you have a video about goblins. I don't know if that's unpopular, but
I was just saying, honestly, on the surveys, they're not that popular, which is surprising because I love goblins. They're popular as like an NPC, but players, it seems, don't gravitate towards them.
I see. Because it doesn't necessarily serve a power fantasy.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I like to play, weird little guys.
Same. Yeah, give me a weird little arcane trickster gnome or somebody.
Yeah, and that's what, like, I always say, I'm like set up to be a DM's player. Like, I'm gonna do all of the weird things, I'm gonna touch all of the cursed objects. So goblins are great packaging for that. But also I did a similar video on Asmar because I really like them. I hate that people think they're boring and like tieflings are cool. So that's one of my favorite races. So that was one of my early videos.
Yeah. People have very strong opinions about tieflings. I think there's a certain type of person who only will ever play a tiefling, and most other people don't want to play with them.
See, I'm like, I know that they can have very complex stories, but I agree that I usually see very dark and broody and tortured. And I think Asmar can be just as tortured. I think you could do tiefling things in an Asmar. I just think they're like such a like same coin, different sides type of thing that it kills me that everyone latched onto one and not the other.
Well, they do look cool. They have tails and horns and stuff. Well, do they have
they're
tails?
significantly cooler. I agree. Their design is better, I guess, but I don't know.
That means we can make Asmar better, really. All right, let's roll some dice. I'm gonna ask you some questions depending on what you roll here. There's no bad ones, but there's definitely like a progression to the curve here. Roll a d20. Let me know what you get.
I'm gonna be very sad if I get a d20 because I'm a low roller. I got a 17.
Okay, strong start. What is your favorite thing that happens at the table? What's the juice? What are you striving to achieve?
I love when players sit there and argue about the course of action. Like, I like when I've lobbed up a scenario that everyone has strong and very different feelings on, and that the session becomes like a solid hour and a half chunk of them trying to decide what to do because they're so invested. That's always my favorite. I love just listening to them because I'm also secretly stealing ideas while they're talking.
Yeah, it could be this, it could be that. It took me a little while to get comfortable with that. When I was like a beginner GM, I was like, oh no, I need to drive the action. I need to like pace this up. And like, nope.
Yeah.
Let them
I
steal.
feel like that's one of the hardest parts. I really think pacing, like, I'm a huge nerd. So I took notes during my first like 15 sessions on what I could do better for the next session. You can tell I was like an AP class kid sometimes. Uh, but like I
You don't
did
have
that
to
because
apologize for being nerdy on this
I
channel.
guess that's
Like, come on.
true.
You're good.
But yeah, like I think the pacing part is so hard because it is in the beginning, you're like, okay, how do I get this, this, and this? And in the end, it's really, okay, how do I get the players to kind of take control of that pacing? And that's what, and being okay with slower games in terms of what you brought out to them. But I really love a session where I talk for like half an hour tops.
Mm.
Like, I think it's so fun because they're having such a good time, and I really like them getting that invested in it.
Yeah, because it's a very good litmus test to gauge their investment in the story, in the
Mhm.
characters, in the plot. Like, if they're arguing about what to do, you know you got them.
Yeah, that's what, like, I just wanna have to answer occasional questions. I love when they come up with, like, insane ideas because 'cause I'm not necessarily, like, a hardcore, like, rules is written person. So if someone has a crazy idea, I might give them, like, parameters on how it will work and, like, let them know it might not work again in the future. But yeah, no, like, one of my characters or my players once wanted to use wild shape to be a swarm of rats to pull off this kind of distraction. And it was probably one of the funniest things because they spent an hour arguing about whether it was a good idea or not. Because I let them know, like, as the rats disappear, like as they lose health, some will disappear, more
Mhm.
people might gang up to step on them, etc. And I rolled really high, which never happens. They rolled really low, which never happens. And so after they got to the last bit of like health points, they appeared as the last rat was killed. And that was like supposed to be like a secret distraction, and they were caught red handed. So
Mhm.
I like letting them kind of seal their own fate and kind of decide, like, okay, yeah, this sounds cool and fun for this moment.
Yeah, I mean that's the game. That's the game.
Yeah, that is
It's
the game.
yeah, let them scheme because but it's let them get further in before they get into trouble.
Mhm.
Great. Yeah, sure. Please do that.
My favorite game.
Yeah.
That's playing the game of last chance to back out from this.
Mhm.
I'll let
Mhm.
you try, but good luck.
Yeah, I say that you can try anything. I will let you
Mhm.
try anything, and I will. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
the reason you're a human being running the game and not a computer is like, all right, I'm gonna
Yeah.
interpret the rules to fit this thing that you're attempting. Um, but yeah, no guarantees.
Yeah, no, that's my favorite part for sure.
Roll another d20. Let's see what else we get.
That is a 9.
9. I did not mention if you roll the same thing twice, we get the lightning round.
Ooh.
All right, let's get spicy. What common or popular advice or like a take do you disagree with?
Okay, this is an easy one because I get pushback on this all the time.
Let's go. Come with the
Uh,
comments.
I really hate the idea that like the DM is always right or the DM has like necessarily like the final say. Like I really hate the saying like I'm the DM, that's why. Like
Mm,
I don't like that mentality. So I think that advice like just being like I don't know, you're the DM, make the decision. Like I don't think it's a bad thing to pause the game really quick, get unimmersed and like talk about like what someone's trying to accomplish, why you think the rules are interpreting it this way, etc. Like I don't think breaking immersion is the end all be all, especially if you're a new DM.
yeah, no, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think there's a lot of, especially like new DMs, because it's rule zero, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's the PHP or the DMG, but like rule zero is like you're the DM, you make the call, it's your world. And I think the intention is to be empowering. Like, hey,
Yeah.
I know there's 400 pages of rules here, but like you can just make this up as you go along, and we're playing pretend. But I think in the hands of the wrong kind of person, right? Like I'm the DM. That's why that would scare me from rejoining a group if I heard that.
Yeah, no, I've definitely encountered it. And it's a downer because it's such a fun game, and I can see why some people like tried and then like maybe it isn't for me when they just weren't at a table that was right for them.
Yeah.
And that's what like I do agree that it was probably meant to be empowering and meant to be like, hey, mistakes happen. It's okay. But I think a lot of us who like to DM do like control in some degree. Like, I'm not gonna lie and say I don't like being in control, but I like that because I like to try to make people have as much fun as possible.
Hmm.
Like, it's not just because I like power for power's sake.
Yeah, that's the kind of what evil is, I think.
I know, I was
Maybe
about
we
to
could
say,
talk
like,
about.
this is a really good way to find out your alignment. Go try
Yes,
DMing and see what happens.
yes, yeah. And I think it's also like kind of a fundamental misunderstanding of the relationships that are happening at the table. Like the dungeon master is not the only one responsible for all of the fun. That way madness and burnout lies. Like,
Yeah.
and as
And
someone
that's
who's
what,
like,
like, I think that's disempowering for players. Like, I think so many players feel like even if they're told like this game I'm playing in is a sandbox, if you have someone who's not letting you be creative and like really contribute ideas, like it's a bummer.
yeah, yeah. And the more brains you're putting on something, the better the results are going to be.
Yeah.
And the more, like, yeah, the unexpected is the magic. Like that's the
Yeah.
fun stuff. Be it like the player surprising you or the dice surprising you or like your world surprising you if you're randomizing
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
And that's what like I love. I like relish that opportunity for surprises and not being so like stuck in the way something should be or I was told it would be. Like I love surprises.
Yeah. Embrace your inner goblin,
Yeah.
line yourself with chaos and just like, oh, the rain's a little bit.
Yeah,
And
it's
yeah,
definitely out of left field that I like goblins
share.
options.
Okay, give me another D20. That was a good one. That was a good one.
16.
16. You said you were bad at rolling dice.
I know this is unfortunate because I have a game in a couple of days that I know I'm gonna roll like under 10 every time.
Burn them out right now.
Yeah.
Um, ooh, okay. Like a corollary. What common advice really only applies to more advanced game masters?
Ooh, that's a good question. And I feel like I think this is a good question because I do believe in advanced game masters, but I also don't. Like I don't think experience is necessarily an end all be all.
Hmm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, there's
Because
it's out of frame, but there's a shelf of like Buddhism behind me, and it's like beginner's mind is very.
okay, okay. Well, this is perfect because that's something I'm a really big believer in. My partner says that my hobby is collecting more hobbies,
Ah,
uh, which is very true. But like, I'm really used to having that beginner mindset and failing at things and getting better over time. So like, the idea of sucking at something or not doing something right isn't scary to me. It's like, do I want to do well? Yeah, like of course I fucking do, but I'm not afraid to do it poorly first. So that's what I don't know if I have a concrete answer to this. I'd say like maybe developing super complex plot webs at first, like taking
oh,
advice for those might not be the best move for a new DM, but also that's kind of exactly like what I did. So, and it's been fun. It's like I don't know if it's like the best move. Could things be better? Sure, but I I don't know. I say jump off the deep end no matter what your experience level is. Like do the thing you think is fun. See how
yeah.
it goes.
God, I love that answer, and it took me I don't know 3 to 4 decades of life to figure that out for myself. Yeah, you and it's like I think I don't know if it's your first video, but like you have a DM advice video where you're like number one or two. I think it's number one is embrace the suck, and it's
Yeah.
like you're you've never done this before, and you expect to be perfect, and
Yeah.
that's going to stop you from ever trying.
It's such a crippling mindset, and I
Yeah.
see it a lot. One of my favorite of my hobby collection is pottery.
Mm.
Uh, and so in classes where we were always mixed group, like I rent studio space now, so I don't see it as much, but uh, like there's people who come in, have never used a pottery wheel in their life, and are so disheartened that by like the second or third class that they're not like making mugs and stuff. And it's just really wild to watch someone who's enjoying being there stop coming because they're not good at it. And I just feel like that happens so much for adults, especially. We're not always, unless you're an insane person like me, we're not always used to putting ourselves in these situations where we're trying something brand new to us. So we're not used to that feeling of sucking and getting through that, moving through the awkward moments of our life. We're used to like, oh, this means it isn't for me. I'm going to run away, and it's a muscle, it's a muscle, you get used to sucking.
Yeah, God, that's so great. That's so empowering. Like I literally, so also out of shot is some really shitty pottery.
Really? Okay, so you've tried
And I
it.
try and I try and it's awesome. So we watched not the great it's like the Great British Bake Off of pottery. It's like
Yeah,
a great
the Great
throwdown.
Pottery Throwdown,
Yeah.
yeah.
Woo. If you haven't seen it, if you like Great British Bake Off, this is it with pottery. And instead of Paul Hollywood, you have a guy who cries all pretty
I
much every
love
episode
him.
because someone tried so hard or like made something beautiful. It's
That
just
would
the
be me, I'm a crier.
it's so good. I was talking about it 2 nights ago with Skylar, the ADHDM. He who had never heard of it but is a huge Bake Off fan. So yeah, people
Yeah,
watch that.
Skylar would love that.
Um but yeah, we watched that. My wife's like, let's go for a pottery class. And my impulse was like, no, I'm gonna be bad at it because I've never done it before.
You
And,
will.
and then I was like, and I was bad at it. But like I was like, no, I've been like working on that. Like there's origami
Mhm.
behind me because I was like, I need to be bad at things to
Yeah,
like, and this
it's
is not,
okay.
yeah, and this is like as a adult.
Yeah,
Like,
and, like, it's actually okay to also not improve, like, I was a very slow pottery learner, like, I wasn't even average pace getting better, like, I was actively, like, a little behind other people on my timeline, but it's such a zen experience, and it's okay to just like something, like, it's okay to just love doing something.
so this is now the Pottery Channel.
I know. We're talking
It's
about
so
arts and crafts hour.
let's go. Yeah, we're crafting minis next episode. Uh,
Yes.
the act of like I made a couple okay things much worse because I enjoyed the
Mhm.
tactile process and the
Yes.
meditative and like
It's
it was a 3 hour class or something and it would just be like boom,
Mhm.
it would just be over. I'd be like, oh, I, I didn't want to come here, but now I never want to leave. You know,
Yeah.
like yeah, go do things you are bad at, especially if you've been playing D&D for a long time. I see this all the time. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I can't be a dungeon master. It's like, why? Yes, you can. I know you
Yeah.
can.
I
Yeah.
know, and that's what I actively work on, empowering my players to DM. So that's what like I set up things where sometimes I'm like, "Hey guys, I know we have a session scheduled next week. I'm feeling pretty overloaded with things. Does anyone want to try running a one shot? Does anyone want to try running Goblin Quest? Something like very low key."
Mhm.
Like so I've been trying. I do have a player and one of my more like intensive campaigns that is interested, and that's that they're an in-person one here in Louisville. And since I'm going to be moving, I'm really really hoping that she'll take over the group because
Mhm.
she's finally like read through the players. She actually went and read the player's handbook, so I'm like, yay, good job. I'm
Mhm.
like, you can do this.
Mhm.
And so she's someone who has definitely like it's the confidence gap is what it is. It's not a skills gap. Like she has great ideas, and I usually yoink some of her things whenever they're having those in character discussions. I'm like, that would be cool if that happened. I'm like, just gonna take that, put it over here.
Oh
Uh,
no, you figured out my secret plan.
like I am a genius. I love that feeling as a DM being like, none of us really know what's going on. Like most, I guess most of us. Some people are probably a little bit more involved in maintaining types of plots. I always have like a few key moments, maybe that won't change, but everything in between, I'm like, the players come up with so many cool ideas. I don't know how you just be like, no, these are the things that are happening.
Yes. Yes, because that sense of discovery being possible even, right? Like I always know like
Yeah,
I have a decent idea of like what's going to happen without intervention.
yeah,
However, like, if I don't
exactly.
periodically throw that out, then it's been less fun for everyone, especially me.
Yeah. No, and that's what like I've had a player with what I thought was going to be their long-term rival. Like they built me a great NPC from their childhood that they were now at odds with. And they ended up killing them like at level 3. Like I thought they were I kept being like, you can knock them out, you can do this, this, and this. They ended up like slaughtering them and some town guards. And I was like, okay. And like I think I didn't even really give that session like a very like kind of, detailed story ending. I think I had to do it at the start of the next session because I did not expect them to do it. And I was like, oh, okay. What where are we going now? But no, I live for those moments. I'm like, yeah, stump me, yeah, do something cool. Like I love it.
And you can always punt.
Hmm.
You can always admit that you're human. And
Yeah.
honestly, I think some people are afraid to like give up that authority because the illusion
Yeah.
of the Wizard of Oz or whatever behind the screen is gonna go away. But my I've had a lot of players be like, "Oh, did I stump you? Whoa!" It's like
Oh, they
so.
love it. That's what like
Mhm.
they're not like sad that you did it. Uh
No, no, they love it. And even like I'll
yeah.
lean into it now. I'll like pretend to be like, "Oh, shoot, I didn't know that was gonna happen," or like,
Yeah. Like, sorry, I accidentally clicked out of you. I was just trying to move you.
"Oh no."
uh, I was afraid I canceled this. But yeah, like that's what like they think it's fun and they like the chance to come up with things too. And a lot of players like knowing that they did like affect the world, affect the storyline. Like they like that. I'm like, I like that. I could and I do think that is a thing, as I think a lot of DMs should try to also be players, even if it's not their favorite, because I think then you get that better like feedback loop of like, okay, I like this as a player, or I see these issues happening, or this DM does something amazing and cool. Like I like that kind of iteration process.
Absolutely.
Uh yeah, no, I love it. I don't know what the original question was anymore.
Me neither, and I don't care because that was beautiful. Roll a d20.
I like that you got to talk to two people with severe ADHD back to back.
No, well, I mean, yeah, as I don't feel super typical in my day-to-day life, but like as a neurotypical person like this, I don't know.
I think this hobby is loaded with with
Oh, sure, sure, and it's been good. It's it's nice to have um outspoken is maybe the wrong word, but people like owning it and expressing
yeah,
it and like
comfortably open.
open, yeah, like
Yeah.
not masking. I don't even know, but like I deal with a lot of folks on the spectrum, and it's a spectrum, right? Like
Yeah.
I think the line is pretty blurry about like
Yeah, for
you're
sure.
normal and now you're on this
Yeah.
like
Well,
whatever.
that's what I think most people, it's one of those things where like I think neurotypical is even kind of like a misnomer sometimes because I do think it's very much like that XY graph, like everyone's kind of somewhere along a spectrum of something. Like no one, there's no one perfectly normal human, is
Right.
my deep belief. So
I would
that's
be terrified of that person. Like, what does that even look like? Like that's
Jason Bateman type thing.
right. Yeah. I mean, maybe. Yeah.
Uh, so I rolled a 13.
You rolled a 13. Bum, 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 bum. What's on your dungeon master screen or in your DM kit?
Okay, so I use a computer while I run. So I don't have a DM screen. I do have a fan that's actually right here because I got my dice out. This is what I use to hide my face because
Oh,
I have no poker face.
okay.
One of my players suggested fans at some point, and it's been pretty good because I can lift and
Nice.
move behind
Nice.
like a very normal person. But I really like having my computer because I create little different segregated desktops so
Mm,
that I can easily access lots of different types of information. So it's very rare that I'm caught completely off guard by a question that I can't very quickly come up with some sort of at least half bullshit answer to. But I usually have I do very much a flourish style lazy DM prep. So I usually have that on one side, I have my next like screen section full of like spell lists for me to quickly look up something in
Mm,
case I don't really know much about what they're trying to do, and things that I can just kind of quick reference. And then on my last one, I usually, for at least in-person games, I broadcast onto my TV like kind of atmospheric images. So I
mm.
really like to like cultivate like a vibe. I'll light different candles. Sometimes I do like snack spreads and cocktails.
Ooh, all right.
So I'll have like my like music, my soundboard, and like my series of images lined up for me to cast onto the screen.
Nice. I'm coming over.
Yeah, I like so I come at DMing from the perspective of someone who hosts a lot of dinner parties.
hmm
So I kind of create that atmosphere for my games.
There's a lot of overlap. You are
Yeah.
you are creating you are cultivating an experience for people.
And that's I really think of it as like user experience, user design oriented
Mm.
things. And so that's what even when like I start playing like with new players, I make them like a little booklet of their things they can do kind of segmented different ways. Like I create little like tools for everyone. But yeah, I very much agree that user experience like dinner party thing is definitely the background I come from.
Yeah, that's great. Have you done like a video or like shared your process of like those little booklets? That was very
Not yet. It
interesting.
is on my docket as a potential one. I wasn't sure like how much interest it would get or like how to frame it yet. I was gonna, I think maybe like package it as like a give this to your new player type of thing.
That's
Because
very
that is
cool.
how
There's
I
like some
come.
like Scandinavian countries, they send you a little box when you have a baby. Like there's like that
Yeah,
kind of vibe of like
exactly. And that's what like if they want to like create their mini, I have a 3D printer, although can point of contention, I actually prefer paper minis right now.
oh.
I know, that's I do still like I like everything is the problem.
Mhm.
Uh,
I also have
but
the
I
same.
I really do like paper minis a lot right now. So, but I'm like, if they wanted to create something in Hero Forge, I'm like, I can print it and do like a base painting. They can get into things as they want. But yeah, no, I actually for my first time players that live away from me wanted to get into box making an additional like bookbinding type thing. I do bookbinding
Oh,
sometimes.
wow.
So I really wanted to go above and beyond for them like a psychopath and create a nice little box to send them.
Sounds like you succeeded. Yeah.
I was gonna say I did not do that yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I want to. I have the plans, I have the things. Thankfully, the ADHD sometimes keeps me from spending 30 hours on insane projects.
So a little like inside baseball YouTube stuff. Every person who's making videos has a list of 100 videos that they haven't made yet because they don't know how to, or they're afraid it's not going to do well, or there's another 99 videos that they're going to make first.
Yeah, that's always my problem. I'm like, there's things where I'm like, I'm sure, like, since I'm small, I don't care about how well they do yet, which is probably a terrible mindset.
I mean,
But like, yeah, I'm like, I want to make the thing that's most exciting to me that week. And so that's very volatile.
yeah. Well, doing the other like chasing the news was like the thing to do for a year or two, and it's going to be
Yeah.
it. It's like one approach. And it's I admire that. I'll do that when I'm like very passionate about a thing.
Yeah.
Um, and that's the quickest way, but I think making stuff that you care about that's a little more evergreen, to use a
Yeah.
to use a inside baseball term, it's just better for like your longevity, right? Because
Yeah.
like if you want to be rich and famous from YouTube talking about D&D, well, it's worked for some people, but there's
Yeah.
faster
Yeah.
routes. There's faster
There's
routes
better niches to target if that's the goal
if
for
that's the
sure.
goal. So yeah, you
That's what I
gotta.
think most people come at this like passion project which is for sure how I've been addressing it. So yeah, no, it's definitely it's on my list of videos to potentially make at some point in my life.
That's cool. All right, give me one more D20.
Okay.
Let's get another Q. Let's get another
An 8.
an 8. It's very very thematic one. So you can rip this one up too. But a
Ooh.
piece of advice new DMs should hear, but never really do.
I mean, I do feel like we covered it a little, so we might want to
Yeah,
reroll because I do
I'm
think
down.
it is embrace the suck. Like, I'm like, you're gonna suck. It's okay. Like, it's just so simple. It's like, you're gonna suck. Have a great time doing it.
Yeah, and worth repeating. I'm glad we.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have fun.
uh,
You're especially if you're with people you know, I think it's even simpler. It's like you're having some beverages, some sodas with your buddies. Like you're just bullshitting and having a good time. Like worry about that first. Like everything else will come as you grow.
yes, yes. You don't need to provide a full a full charcuterie board and scented candles that match the
Yeah.
mood, and
Yeah, you
buy the
don't
book.
have to do
And but yeah, you're trying to have a good. You're trying to provide the most amount of fun and
yeah.
make sure you're including yourself in that equation.
Yes. Yes. You count.
You count. You count. But you're also not the god of this world. Give me one. Give me one more d20 because we
A
did
two.
two. What is your least favorite aspect of running the game?
Ooh. Um, interesting. I I don't know. This is my problem. I'm very optimism oriented. I'm like, I like everything. Uh,
Seems like a good problem.
I'd say I probably don't like the pressure to use battle maps and minis if I'm gonna get divisive.
Yeah,
I actually love Theater of the Mind combat. Ran with the right set of people again. So that's what once again I'm like, this is very group like specific. Because if you have a DM who's like, you're not close to that person, no, you're not by that person, no, that person's over there. That's really hard. That sucks. But if you have someone who's like, okay, if you're trying to do area of attack, these people are over here. If you have a long range spell, you could also probably include these people, like someone who's very proactive about helping prompt things. So I really, really like Theater of the Mind. I feel like it flows really well when done correctly. And that's something I'm definitely trying to still improve on, especially for players who do get very worried about not maximizing their turn and being like more conscientious of people who have a hard time imagining things. So sometimes I'll put up like on my little TV, I'll put up like kind of like whiteboard, almost like rough ideas for the people who are having a harder time imagining what I'm talking about. But I love Theater of the Mind, so I think
same.
pressure to use minis and battle maps for every single thing. I'm like, I still think they have a time and a place. I still love them, but it's a lot of work to do that stuff.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is system dependent. In fifth edition or Pathfinder or like crunchier side of things games, like tactical battle. I found myself a couple times like running Theater of the Mind and just like drawing a map but not sharing it with the players because I'm like, are you 40 feet away or 30 feet away?
Yeah.
But other systems, other genres, more rules light stuff. Woo, that it's so good because
Yeah.
I mean people are built different too. That's something that people need to realize. Like some people have a much better time visualizing stuff. Some people literally don't at all have a
For
mental image in their
sure.
mind. So
And that's
talk
what
to
I
your
try
player.
to be very cognizant of those people because I've recently talked to people who are like, that's my nightmares like scenario is being at a table without minis. And I'm like, oh, because that's what I'm someone who everything that anyone says is a movie, like in my brain immediately, for better or worse. That's what I don't like people telling gross stories. I run away. uh, but yeah, no, that's what like I play in Dragonbane pretty frequently, and I really like that one for Theater of the Mind because that's also low magic, so area of effect isn't really as relevant all of the time. So that's what like there's definitely a time and a place. I agree because that's what when done poorly, I think a lot of people walk away thinking they won't like it at all when it's really fun.
Yeah, because it kind of it opens things up a little bit. And as someone with also like a pretty active imagination, like the thing that I make up in my mind is always going to be cooler than the thing I can portray
Yeah.
in 2 dimensions or even 3 dimensions. Like I'll do images on the screen when I have like in-person play, or even actually online too. It's easy to like
Yeah.
share pictures and
Well,
like
that's what I took that I'm like, I do like that aspect of VTTs. I'm like, let me do it in real life.
yeah. We all learned a lot over COVID. Um
I didn't start playing before COVID.
ooh,
I've
great
only been
stories.
playing for 2 years.
That's yeah, I've only been playing for 10, so I'm a baby in this count. Like
I do like that that's only in this space sometimes.
it's so interesting. Most people just started, and most
Yeah.
people are afraid to say so, which
Oh,
is I think that's less and less true.
yeah.
I think that's less and less true because like people realized most people who are playing today started with fifth edition.
Yeah.
Um and
Although
it's
I'm sad because I think I would like both 3.5 and 4. I've read through the DMGs for them, and I think there's certain things that some people complain about that I think sound fun.
good news, those things still exist.
I know.
I'm
And
playing
that's the thing is I as a DM, I'm always happy that I get to decide what things we're trying to port in and out. That's what like I always I'm like I run D&D 5e, but I actually really just run a modular Stephanie system of whatever I want with the players input. uh, and that's what like I'm never like we're going to do this whether you're having fun or not. I'm like, "Okay guys, how was this combat? How was this thing like that we tried?" But yeah, no, that's it. Like, I would like to be at a table where I could get to do some of the things as a player.
mm, yeah. I so yeah, it's two things that you just made me think of, like two videos on my list of things to maybe make. The one I like actively decided not to make, which is, oh, your players won't agree to play anything but 5e. Cool. They don't know what's happening. Like,
That's true.
I'm running some old school stuff tonight. Tomorrow I'm running 5e, and like there's a lot of uh, systems running behind the scenes that are not fifth edition, that are an amalgam of
Yeah.
like 100 things. And like you don't need to hand your player uh portfolio of homebrew rules that they have to sign off
Yeah.
on. A
And that's
lot
what
of this
it's
stuff.
okay to also like port in things for like a scene for a session. Like that's what like I recently just got to run Mothership, and I'm trying to write a little like one of the pamphlet style games that I'm hoping to put out later this year. I really, really like Mothership. But I like things where it's like, okay, there's these series of like very hardcore like consequences. And it's like, you can do that for one super deadly dungeon they agreed to go into. It's like, you don't have to do that for every dungeon. It's like, you can try things. Like
Yeah,
it's not that high. These games of imagination are not that high of stakes in my opinion.
right. Because like you can always run a one shot. And it's D&D. There's magic in the world. Like
Yeah.
you know why things are different here? Well, me neither.
Yep.
Wizard did it. Like
Yep.
here you go. Try different things, and it might be somebody's favorite. And if you have an open, you know, channel of communication with the players and it's not
Yeah,
just like my way's the highway,
exactly.
then hey, how did you feel about running it this way? Like, oh, I just saw this video about initiative. I'm gonna run things this way.
Yeah,
This combat, let's see how it goes because we're
for
all in this together.
sure. And
Yeah.
that's what I actually just got that comment on a video I put out yesterday was someone's like, how do you get like player buy-in for some of these things? And I had to be honest, I think some part of it is I'm lucky enough that I play with people that I know from other realms in life. Like that's what my in-person group here is actually all people I met through the pottery studio
Hmm.
because they heard me talking about it. One person said they were interested. I said I'd run a game, and everyone was like, "Can I play?" So that's a whole group of 6. Uh, but like I think I'm lucky enough that I have attracted like minds where it's people who are willing to try things and aren't necessarily people who care about upholding the way something was meant to be. So that's what I had to be honest that like part of it is almost 100% like having to do with that. Like I don't know if I could coerce their group into trying something, but it is also that line of communication. Like they know if they hate something, I'm not going to be like, well, I liked it. I'm gonna be like, okay, cool, thanks for trying it, guys.
Yeah, and I think that's the key of like one, you find your tribe, and that's not
Yeah,
that's you're not gonna find that in the DMG. I wish you could. But two, yeah, we're gonna try this thing because
yeah,
people are gun shy to be like, you're going to invest $60 and hours and hours and hours of your life reading
yeah.
this new thing because we're going to run a campaign and like this is what we're doing for the next 2 years. It's like, nah, we're going to try this for this encounter and see
And
how
that's
it
what I
goes.
do think one of the problems with that is DMs are like, well, then all the work's just on me. And it's like, yeah, do you want to do it? Yes or no? Like, at the end of the day, that's the answer. Do you want to do it? Yes or no? It's like you have to take on that responsibility of knowing that players inherently don't want to do as much work as you. Like, even the best of players don't
Right.
want to do that much work 90% of the time. Like, I know I am an outlier because I love this stuff so much. Like, I will always read every single player's guide for everything I play in. I study, I make myself a cheat sheet before I play in a new system. Like, I know I am the exception to the rule, and I don't expect players at my table to do that.
Mm.
Like, it's
Mm.
not reasonable for most people with full-time jobs, kids, other shit to do, because their passion is just hanging out and rolling dice with friends. My passion is creating worlds, like running systems, like tinkering with things. Like, those are two very different things.
Yes. I think the best reason to be a dungeon master is because you get to play D&D all of the
Yeah.
time.
And you get to think about it all of the time. Like, that's what I have never had an obsession before D&D, like
Hmm,
TTRPGs.
hmm.
I've never liked anything this much.
Well, because I think a lot of it is that secretly like 17 things
Yes,
all together
that's exactly
stuck
what
to
I
make one.
tell people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
it's
like
all of my hobbies condensed into one thing. Like, one of my players from the pottery studio made a ceramic like dice tray, like it's a castle.
I was
Uh,
I was about to ask if you guys were like making minis and stuff. Like, yeah, make a dice
so
tray.
I've started sculpting. Actually, I'm gonna be putting out a video on this soon of alternatives to 3D printed minis, since I
Mm.
am someone who likes them but thinks there's other ways and other fun crafts you can do for minis. But one of them is sculpture. Like, I love using little sculpey things and like making tiny stuff. Like, I think it's so much fun.
Yeah. Also cheap, fast alternative if you don't, I mean, have a 3D printer or studio time at a pottery place. Candy. That's how I don't know if I started, but like early on in my home game, whatever back in the day, candy on the table, and then you defeat the monster, you eat the
I was
candy.
about to say that
Yeah,
that makes me so happy. I
so
might
good.
do that regardless.
Yeah, I think it was probably like around Halloween, and I was like, I
Yeah,
need to distribute this candy so I don't eat all of it
yeah.
myself.
I
Yeah.
feel like it's like if you get something with a stable enough wrapper, you can like put a little sticker of a monster on it and still let them eat it. That sounds like a really cute Halloween one shot thing.
Yes. So good. Let's do one more because I'm enjoying this
Yeah,
too. We should be done, but I don't
yeah,
care. We're going long. Give me one more.
I love it.
You
Throwing caution to the wind. I rolled another two.
rolled another. Okay, so this is like 20 more. Lightning,
20
lightning
fast
rounds.
ones.
No
We'll see
pressure
how
to go.
many tangents happen.
Yes, well, that's the name of the game here. Do you fudge dice rolls?
I do. I do. I know that's so unpopular. I almost exclusively, I think I do exclusively fudge it in the player's favor, and I have regretted it. So, I have been punished. That's what, like, my player who killed their rival.
Hmm.
Their rival was rolling great. I wanted it to have that flow, and then they just demolished them. Like, I stopped rolling good, and I don't lie about them when the player's winning.
Mhm.
But I fudge it in the player's favor only.
Yeah, and to make you feel better, that's been the most popular answer. Everyone's like, oh,
Okay, I'm
yeah.
like, I know so many people who are like, never. And I'm like, oh.
I think most of those people have never run a game. That's my theory. That's my theory about a lot of internet
Yeah.
opinions. What is your favorite die size?
D12s.
That's also yeah.
Really? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite class to play is a barbarian. So
Mm.
I really like when I hit because I am a low roller. So that is very satisfying. That's I do a great axe barbarian.
It's
So
funny that the most like the 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 most gratifying thing of doing this is connecting with like-minded people all over the world. The second most gratifying thing is realizing that I'm not the only person who has a preference, and it's the
oh
D12.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
it's a nice day.
people have different reasons for it, but like D12 has been the most
It also
popular one.
just feels good. It's
Yeah,
a good dice.
it's a good dice. We need more reasons to roll D12s. Do you run published or homebrew?
I run homebrew. I was about to say I want to run a published thing, and then I realized quickly that was kind of a lie because I want to smush them together and then add my own thing. So just homebrew.
Yeah, I mean it's actually like a false dichotomy. It's a trick question.
Yeah. Trick question.
Encumbrance.
I hate it. I don't do it. It's boring for
Uh,
me.
favorite class.
Barbarian. Barbarian all the way, forever and ever.
Nice. Favorite lineage or species or ancestry.
I'm gonna say goblin. Forest gnome is a close second.
Mm, there's some overlap in that Venn
Yeah,
diagram.
that's it. Forest gnome was my first thing I ever played, and I loved her.
Yeah, we're little guys.
Yep.
Um, do you see combat more as like sport or more as like war?
So as like kind of uh like
It's interesting. It's a framing that like I thought was more a lot of yeah.
I think I've heard that said before, like more
Like
as
do
like
you
a
do,
competition or
like do you balance your combat encounters? Can your players walk into a thing where it's like you're gonna get smoked if you don't?
okay. If
Smart.
anyone's listening to this, I need them to skip like a minute or two if any of my players end up listening to this.
They already know you fudge, so you're in trouble.
I know. That's what they probably know. Like, I love them. I love the characters they build. There are ones where I'm like, I do stack it against them. So if they win, it's like they still did something, even if I fudged it a little. I might just fudge like the worst of like the damage that was coming. But I do combat really weird. So I kind of have loose ideas. Like I take monster stat blocks and sometimes like reflavor them, rework an idea, stay kind of loosely in the area. But as a result of Kraken Week, someone posted kind of like a damage table for creating your own monsters. And I'm glad to see that because that's how my brain works. I'm like, okay, I want a monster.
Wait, that was I posted that.
Oh, you did it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's literally the way I do combat is
Yeah.
I don't really look at a stat block beyond concepts. I just kind of think like I want this to be hard, possibly deadly.
Mm.
Group of six, I'm gonna definitely need more than one monster, but they're gonna be able to deal this amount of damage, and it's gonna take at least 3 or 4 like hits to down them. So I
Mm.
kind of like average that out. Like I do more combat pacing than true hit points.
Okay.
I am I don't know if other people run combat like me. I run the loosest concept of like a stat block that I have heard so far. Like I'm looking for more of that like cinematic feel to my combat.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, people do. I will at times be like, well, this guy has 100 more hit points now because this fight is not going for one round. Or the opposite, like
Yeah.
that was sweet. I
Yeah.
will, this guy has well fewer hit points because like that should be the killing blow, not
Yeah.
next thing. So like, yeah. Players, sorry, it's better for you. Take your medicine, it's fine.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I do both. I ran a very
Yeah.
open. I think because I'm like my all of my games, most of my games are secretly like Dungeon Master incubators. So like,
Yeah. I love that. Oh my gosh, that's the cutest like phrasing for it. I'm gonna start calling
take it with my blessing.
that.
There's I was running a very open game. I haven't used a Dungeon Master
Mhm.
tree, and every roll is in the open. I will tell people like this is the AC, this is the DC. This
Yeah.
part this guy has one hit point left. Like
Yeah.
in fact my brother-in-law will all of the time leave a monster with 1 HP, and I'll give it to him sometimes because
Yeah.
it's a thing now for years.
Oh no.
And it's also funny to be like, this thing has 1 hit point
One.
left because now it'll negotiate with you or what. Its
Yeah, it's
viewpoint has
true.
changed.
And
Uh,
that's, I guess, the other part of it for me is that my combats are almost never like defeat the thing. Like
mm,
my combats always have like alternative like potential goals. It's like, could they kill this? Yes. Do they have to? No. So that's another reason I think like I do stat blocks a little weird, but I care a lot more about like the flavor and effects that monsters can do. So like grappling type things. Like I really like alternatives to straight damage and alternative stakes.
yes.
Uh so that's I look at combat in the weirdest way.
Well, I I think that's okay. Here's hoping that the like 5.5 or whatever, I think 5.5 is what we're gonna call it, is better because I think a lot of people who run a lot of games started off putting in the effort to do all the math and do
Yeah.
this and work with the CR system and the DMG and the monster manual and
Yeah.
balance encounters and realized, saw that it wasn't working, thought it was them for a long time.
Yeah.
And like the
And that's
game,
what oh,
the game's not as tight as it pretends to be.
yes. Yes. And that's
So
the thing is it's like, okay, having a warlock makes this shit like that's the thing is like each class has its own abilities and probably its own ways it contributes to math. There's optimal player choices versus players who don't necessarily have like the scope of teamwork down
mm,
yet. Like
mm,
there's just so many factors that's why like the first thing I think about is like how do I want this to feel? What do I want the objectives to be? Like that's where I really start with combat design. And I actually have to really credit I don't know if you've ever listened to Girls Who Don't D&D. It
it's
is
on the list of
favorite
100 things I have
podcast
to check out. That, yeah.
hands down. It's what I actually send to any person who's D&D curious. I'm like,
Interesting.
listen to this, like I think you'll like it. And that's how I get people kind of hooked. But Corey, their DM, uh fantastic. I feel like he does a really good job of doing that sort of stuff. And again, it's like it's recorded play, so it's like you have a little more leeway to kind of tinker with how you do things. But I feel like he does so much narrative design in every single aspect of how he's like bringing them through D&D. So I listened to that fairly early on when I started playing, and I think that's really informed a lot of how I think about combat. Like Corey is one of my very favorite like lowdown like DM recommendations for people looking to like watch someone be like, okay, like that's good.
Nice. I mean, that's very interesting to me, and was one on his face, but two as like a on ramp because it's tricky to be like, oh, you want to know what D&D is like? Watch Critical Role.
Yeah, and that's the
There's
thing is
there's
like
200 episodes and they're 6 hours long. Like, no,
and
like
that's
I'm
what,
not
like,
gonna.
I've watched Critical Role. I like
I love
everyone.
it. I
Everyone's
love
super
it.
talented. I've watched only like 30 to 60 episodes. Like, I don't really keep up with it. I'll dabble in some of like the mini spin-offs and just watch recap videos.
Mm,
But no, that's like super dense. And that's what like they're adding more and more, but they're only like an hour long podcast episodes. Like I feel like he's very considerate of time because that's
mm,
the thing is I don't really want to watch 3 hours of things at once. Like I do keep up with a lot of Dimension 20 things, but I'll watch it in 30-minute increments on lunch. Like
yes. And an hour and who knows how long into this
yeah,
this episode.
yeah.
The very good
But
time.
like
I recommend small stuff, but Calamity. Any you or anybody out there who's curious about Critical Role but bounced off of it because it is a
yep.
ridiculous amount of stuff, or anyone who's like more of a fan of Dimension 20 for reasons, Brendan Lee Mulligan. I've been talking for too long. Runs it's 4 episodes and they're
Yeah.
long episodes, but like my favorite hours of entertainment maybe, but like definitely
Yeah.
actual play. So fucking good. Check
Yeah,
out
that's it.
check that
I
out.
really do like I feel like the D20 crew is just more of my style. Like again, I'm like so much respect for all of the Critical Role people. They are fantastic. Like but yeah, no, it's one of those stylistic things where and that's what new people, it's like that might resonate for them. I know a lot of people it was their first exposure to D&D, but some people are sillier like me. It's like, okay, like I do love like one or two sessions of deep heartfelt stuff, but it's also like I love making very chaotic decisions. So that's usually my second. I'm like, okay, like girls who don't D&D, I'm like, watch this season of Emily Axford making Brennan's life hard. I'm like, it's so much fun. Or watch like uh A Court of Fey and Flowers because Ria does such a fantastic job. I'm like, I like things that don't feel so overwhelming and like you have to have 80 voices and you have to be very serious, very dense about all of this. You have to have a book of lore because that's one of those things I do run exclusively homebrew, but I start with like the smallest amount of stuff and I build it out as we go. Like I don't necessarily attribute a lot of things having figured it out myself. I know what this world is about. I'm like, I have ideas, but they can change all of that. I'm like, there might be cooler things by the time they get to this area of the world. So why am I gonna limit myself?
Yeah, that's brilliant. I think a lot of people maybe don't even start running a game because you're like, I have to
Yeah,
make a world of content. It's like, no, you don't.
no, you
You
just
need a
have to have
village.
where they're starting and where they might get to by next session.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
that's
You got to
it.
be one step ahead, not a
Yeah.
thousand. Yeah. I love it. Awesome conversation. Awesome answers. What is coming up next for Stephanie Plays Games and beyond?
Oh man, that's a great question.
One step ahead. That's all. I retract the question.
You caught me in the DM's trick. You caught it. I can feel myself blushing. Uh, well, I know. So I do know soon. This might not be the next video because this might not be what speaks to me in a week and a half. Since I'm going to be in Chicago doing some groundwork for apartment hunting next
Ooh,
week.
that's sick.
Uh, yeah, I know. I actually kind of like it once we're in a place. I love moving. Unpopular opinion. I don't like packing, but I love unpacking. I love finding like my
Mm,
new space.
I can see
Uh,
that. Yeah. You
yeah,
like
it's
moving. You like
fun.
moving in. You like
Yeah.
nesting. Yeah, I
Yes,
can see.
yes, exactly.
Yeah, I can see that.
But after that, I know for sure in the next couple of weeks, I'm gonna be releasing a video on role playing negative traits like being shy, fearful, or things that are usually attributed to murder hobos. Like, I think there is a right way to do some of these like negative traits that we love in movie and TV characters, but that a lot of people get wrong at the table. So I think there's a really good way to do some of them. So that's what I've been kind of bullet point scripting that video. So at least in the next couple of weeks, that is one that will come out.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, that's something. Yeah, it can. A lot of people are afraid to do it because they're trying to win the game,
Yeah.
and a lot of people love to do it and do it poorly and make it worse for the people sitting around them.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Exactly.
I look forward to seeing that video. And that's a nice. We can explore that in the next episode where we roll some dice on the Game Master's Compendium of Explosive Creation. Check it out. We're gonna take a short break, and you can watch that whenever you want. Bye, everybody.